People told me I couldn't do a lot of things.
I feel like I'm the chosen one.
Look at this. We created this. This didn't exist before we were here. All we are is proud and passionate. I love Toronto. I love this team. And we're going to the NBA.
Nothing matters but winning.
Welcome back to episode 52 of Rapzville Weekly. I'm your co-host Gabriel, here with
Adam Kasuchi.
And we had the first regular season game that just finished up on December 23rd. The Toronto Raptors versus the New Orleans Pelicans. And we obviously were very excited for this game, being the first game of the season. Excited to get back to basketball, and a little unusual this year that we're starting so close to Christmas, but we were nonetheless excited to get it going. And New Orleans, we know that is an up-and-coming team, I would say, that they've made some moves this off-season, including getting rid of Drew Holiday, bringing in Bledsoe, bringing in Steven Adams. Obviously, they have a young core in Zion, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo. And they're looking to become more of a playoff contender. Maybe it's 7th, 8th seed. Who knows? But overall, you know, the Raptors, I felt fairly confident going into this game that we should be able to come out on top. So this is the first game of the season. And to start us off, I'm going to talk about Pascal. What we noticed that he looked really confident, energetic, and especially aggressive in the first quarter. In that first quarter, he made a 3, got 3 assists. He was doing a good job on the glass. And then in the second, he continued to shoot the 3-ball decently. By the end of the first half, he picked up about 3 turnovers, which wasn't that good. It was either from stumbling or tripping or losing possession of the ball. A couple of plays, he made some lackluster passing. But we did notice that he did a good job of creating, picked up another assist in the second quarter. And then the third quarter as well, another solid quarter. I think he put up about 8 points there, along with adding some assists. So overall, I think he ended with 20 points, and he did a decent job creating for others, rebounding, scoring. But I know near the fourth quarter, his efficiency went down remarkably, along with the rest of the other team, which we'll talk about. He kind of just excelled the first 3 quarters mainly, and then near the end, forced some shots, was having trouble getting shots to fall, just like the rest of the team. And he really shined in the beginning, but it kind of faltered near the end. Aaron Baines, second guy I'm going to talk about. What we saw was that he was struggling to contain Steven Adams in terms of rebounding and his offense in the first quarter specifically. As the game went on, he found more of his offensive game in the second. He cleaned up some plays on the other end, getting some putbacks. He shot 3 for 4, so it was quite efficient. And also he improved his defense. And even in the third quarter, he had a decent quarter, good efficiency shooting the ball as well. And, I think overall, I would say a solid game from him. We've seen worse in the preseason, and Steven Adams especially is a tough opponent, very strong, very big, physical. Baines looked like he had to adjust to him as the game went on, and I think he did decent, getting his offense more involved and trying to be helping on more with screens and such. But obviously there was mistakes every now and again that we noticed about his defense or the screens. But overall, I think that this was a more improved game than what we've seen. So I think you could take that as a positive for now.
Yeah, bringing it back to Pascal, I thought he had a great game overall. I just think he needs to find a nice balance between playing with pace and playing with and making sure he makes the right plays on the offensive end. I mean, he did get a lot of assists this game, which was amazing. I thought that he did play make well. But he is still getting a lot of offensive fouls. Guys are drawing a lot of charges on him. With him just driving to the rim at a high pace, and I think he just needs to slow it down. Even in the isolation, I think he just needs to look more for his shot. I think he did a great job of that this game. And then looking at Aaron Baines, I thought he had a decent game, especially on the stat sheet. I thought he filled up the numbers. I think. He did okay. I mean, Steven Adams is a paint presence underneath, and it's already obviously a tough matchup for him. And I feel for him from Australia and Steven Adams from New Zealand, that was a very interesting matchup. Them both being from the South, and they battled it out down there. And I just want to see more from Chris Boucher as well. With Aaron Baines playing a lot of the minutes, I think Nurse needs to rotate them more. And Baines looked a bit tired out there, especially in the later game situations. Yeah. And I think Boucher bringing in the energy that he does every night would be a better fit, especially in the late game situations. And it would also get him reps for late game situations, which he hasn't seen a lot of in the past.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. I think, like you said, it was evident, but he probably was getting bruised up trying to contain Adams, and Adams only ended up scoring 8 points that night. But obviously, he had the rest of his team performing very well, and we had a lot of other problems defending. So it was clear that Steven Adams necessarily didn't have a fantastic night. So Baines did do a decent job in that, but everyone else did perform. And Siakam, like you said, that pace is something very hard to manage. Even guys like Norm, they like pushing the tempo and trying to keep a high-paced offense. But sometimes when you do that, you get stuck running on your own and you're attacking 3 guys at a basket and you got no chance of scoring. So you got to just try finding the times where it's best to attack and keep the pace up. Or like Kyle likes to slow it down once in a while, like after that sequence, he told the guys to slow it down, let's just set up a nice play here. And sometimes you got to do that because the turnovers were a problem tonight. We'll talk about each player who had them, but for Siakam, I wanted to mention as well, he had 4 turnovers this night, so obviously not ideal.
Yeah, and moving on to Kyle Lowry, he did use his playmaking ability greatly in this game. He also did a great job defensively, guarding his man, and Bledsoe hit a lot of contested shots over him, which we weren't obviously expected to see. Historically, Bledsoe isn't the best shooter, so we weren't expecting that. Mm-hmm. And he did get subbed off every now and then due to veterans rest, and Nurse kind of used that to his advantage. He did come firing out in the second and hit a bunch of 3 balls with 4, and continued to play make in the second quarter, which was very impressive as well. He didn't get the most amount of minutes in the third, but he continued to create for himself and others. But he did have 6 turnovers this game, which I think it was a bit due to chemistry. I mean, a lot of even Norman Powell said it in the end game interview. They were saying that a lot of guys thought people were cutting, or they just didn't know the play, or they got mixed up, or a lot of controversy there and didn't understand what the play was. And I think Kyle was a bit frustrated at his teammates. I know Kyle will never say it, but I think he looked a bit frustrated that the teammates didn't understand what he was trying to do. But overall, he had a great game: 18 points, 10 assists, 7 for 15 from the field, and 4 threes. So I thought he played a great game. He just needs to continue to score the ball for this team, being one of the primary options for the team scoring the ball. And I thought he played great. I mean, I can't really ask for much from him except lowering the turnovers and maybe look for his drive more, because he's a great driver. He uses his body well, even against bigger defenders, obviously, being very small. And I thought he had a great game. Gabe, anything to say about Kyle?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that obviously, like you said, it looked like he was doing a great job getting his teammates involved. He obviously had 10 assists that night. And like you said, I want him to be more aggressive, because we felt like he was kind of just giving a lot away, and he was setting up great plays. But obviously, like we said, when we're having tough nights, like the third quarter, fourth quarter, we started falling asleep. That's when we love when Kyle goes hard to the rack, create plays on his own, and tries to will this offense back into something. And I feel like he didn't push that enough this game. The turnovers obviously are another problem, and I think chemistry, like you said, is something to blame, because it looked like they were sloppy turnovers. People weren't catching passes. Maybe they weren't aware. They weren't ready for that pass when they were cutting. And I know there were some sloppy plays in general, but it is the first regular season game. But we didn't really see this too much in the preseason. Maybe it's because of the minutes. They weren't as heavy. But now I guess it's coming to light. And I think that can be seen across the league. There was a bunch of players who had either, like Jimmy Butler had 7 steals. So clearly in the first game, people were being very lackluster with the ball. I know Devin Booker had 8 turnovers. So I think it's just the first game of the season type thing where either you're ready or you're not ready, and it shows in the stat line. Yeah.
Okay, now moving on to Fred VanVleet. He scored the ball well in the first quarter with a 3-pointer, a nice drive. He got a couple of steals. So he started off great. In the first half, he had 3 turnovers though, also giving the ball up a lot. And also he was forced to sit most of the second with foul trouble. So that kind of restricted his playing access, and he wasn't on the court to play make or to score the ball, and I think the team struggled when he was off the court. And and it really hurt his stat line at the end, only ending up with 9 points at the end, and it didn't look like he was making his shots later on in the game. I feel like the foul trouble really did hurt his rhythm. And a player like Fred, he's very steady, but I feel like it did hurt his rhythm, especially being the first game of the season. He was off and then came back on, and then it didn't look like him. It didn't look like the preseason Fred that he showed in the first 3 preseason games. So Fred, I mean, he didn't have too much on this night. We expect more from him, but also the team went 0 for 10 from 3 in the third and got outscored 38-22, which is kind of the turning point of the game. I felt that we kind of gave up there in the third quarter. I felt we didn't have the energy, like also Nick Nurse said in the post game. They felt like the gas tank burned out. Guys didn't look energetic. The intensity dropped. Everything wasn't going right for the Raptors. And and they gave up the lead and what they worked for in the first half. So that was very disappointing in the third quarter. Gabe, anything to say?
Yeah, that's the biggest culprit, I believe, to a lot of the players' bad performances. That third quarter, everything just fell flat. Offense wasn't there. Energy wasn't there. No one was making open shots. And we're going to talk about 2 big culprits of that next. But it kind of just contributed to everyone having a poor second half was that start of that third quarter. And Fred, I believe there was the rest in the second, probably got him out rhythm for sure. People were struggling in general to shoot, and I don't know if it was the first game back or I'm not too sure, but it's not good to see obviously a struggle like this so early on in the season. You expect maybe one of these games, every once in a while throughout the year, but to see it in the first game of the season, it's just kind of concerning because you want to start with a bang, you want to start strong and have a good mindset going into the season. I'm not going to lie, I'm getting a little weary right now of how the season's going to go because it looked like a very flat-footed start, at least in the second half.
Yeah, it sure didn't look like a Toronto Raptors performance, high intensity, great defensive play. It looked like the team identity wasn't there, even though it's just the first game of the season. But it for sure didn't look like they were the same team as they were years past. Moving on to OG Anunoby, a lot of deflections. Did pretty good on the defensive end when he had to guard Zion in the first half. He didn't find his rhythm offensively. I feel like even with the wide open threes that he shot, he's just almost flicking the ball at the rim. Like it didn't look like a full follow through shot. I watched his shot back and he wasn't following through. Especially when he was wide open, he just wasn't following through. And I think that's a huge part in when shooting. And I do think he needs to maybe ask for help from a shooting coach or look to keep on getting help from Matt Thomas or the shooters on the team. Because I think that's the area that he needs to improve, obviously. And I think we need to get him also more involved. I mean, it doesn't need to be a pure isolation play because we know he's not an isolation guy. And I don't want to shove him into a situation where he's not comfortable with. So maybe Nurse, I think, just needs to do a better job of just running actions for him, a pick and roll, getting him off the screen, even though he's not that type of player, just to get actions for him, get him involved in the offense. I don't want him sitting in a corner. I feel like he's much more than that, than just a 3-and-D player. And yeah, he has to be more effective when he does get the opportunities though. So I think it's a kind of a mix between Nurse not getting him involved, and also OG needs to be more efficient when he does get those opportunities. He ended up with 8 points and 8 boards and 0 for 5 from 3. So that was it for OG. I mean, I do think there needs to be a little bit of adjustments there with the management as well. So, Gabe, anything to say about OG?
I think you pretty much said it all. Like you said, the shooting obviously is just something that we need him to be consistent on, just because right now, sadly, that's his role. He's kind of put into a box of 3-and-D, so we need him to at least be somewhat consistent from that 3-ball. 0 for 5 is not going to cut it, but you also stated, I'm going to reciprocate that as well. We'd like to see more from him in terms of creating his own shot, being more than just a stand in the corner 3-and-D player, because we know he's capable of it. He's very athletic, freakishly athletic. You don't really see it too often, and all of a sudden you just see his vertical pop up or his stellar defense and how quick he's able to move. And you know that he has some tricks in his bag that he likes to pull off. Even in the post, he's constantly trying new things. So we know that he's working on getting his game up. We just want to see it on the court in full action. So we're just hoping that he can make that leap. That's all I ask.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Gabe, what you said. I think that there has been obviously a lot of talk about OG taking that next step. But obviously in this first game, and even a bit in the preseason games, we didn't see too much of that step being taking place. So, you know me, Gabe, I'm more of an action guy. I want to see action. The talk is great, but I want to see it happen in the games. Moving on to Norman Powell. He looked a lot better than preseason in the first quarter, taking better shots. However, in the second quarter, he made a number of bad plays, forcing drives and collecting 3 personal fouls. And and it kind of kept him out a bit with foul trouble. But yeah, he just couldn't get anything to fall, even if they were wide open looks. 1 for 4 from 3 by the end of the third quarter. So Norm, he just kind of fell back into that trap of forcing his shot. When his 3, I noticed when his 3 isn't falling, he likes to go back to that forcing style. And I think it's great to take the ball hard to the rim, but I think he needs to also understand that when he's doing that, he usually draws 2 defenders. So maybe a kick out would be necessary, or making just a pass to a wide open player to get someone else open. So I think also that he just needs to slow it down. I think he needs to take the shots that he's given, but I just feel like the shots aren't falling for him, and I kind of feel for him. I know he's trying to work hard. He's always saying that he understands when the shots don't fall, that he takes the results the way it comes. I get that, but I think he needs to do a better job of just focusing in, hitting those shots, and even and getting more wide open looks. I feel like he needs more of those. Gabe?
Yeah. So Norman Powell, like you said, he started off very strong. I liked what I saw. He looked more confident. He was hitting some shots at the beginning, and I'm like, okay, we got Norman Powell. Looks like he's coming back. This is going to be a good game for him. And then he just totally proved me wrong. The second quarter, third quarter, it was the same preseason stuff that I saw. He was either forcing or he just couldn't get a shot to fall. The third quarter, especially, he just couldn't hit anything. He had a huge dry spell. He ended 12 points, 2 for 11 shooting. And, that's not what we want to see from him. Like you said, the 3 ball doesn't fall. Obviously, that takes a lot of people off their game, especially him. He's very streaky. So when they don't go in, it really gets cold. And when that happens, it's good to obviously, you need to work your way back to get a bucket, to get yourself back in rhythm. You need to make a layup, you got to make free throws, and he's trying to do that by forcing the drive. He just has to be careful, but when he's doing it, keep your head up and see, is there a defender on me? Am I getting an offensive foul here or a charge by jumping into the guy? Do I have shooters open in the corner? Are they closing in, double teaming? He just needs to be a little bit more aware of when he's doing that. But, the mentality's right. He's just hitting a struggling point where he just got to get out of this rough patch and I think work himself back to being in rhythm and the norm that we saw last year. Next person I want to talk about, he didn't shoot the ball well to start. He was doing a good job route running. It was just hard to get himself open, probably because, we were versus the New Orleans Pelicans, and they do have J.J. Redick, so they've probably been training well to figure out how to get J.J. open looks, and J.J. obviously is sprinting around every corner, catch and shoot, quick releases. So they're probably well aware of what Matt Thomas has to do to get open, and they know how to counter it because they have that in JJ. And hopefully the Raptors did the same, preparing for this matchup, but JJ still had a great night, which we'll mention. So clearly Matt Thomas, he was trying to put in the work, but they might have been more prepared than we thought for it. He tried, decently well. He would hit maybe a 3 each quarter that he was in, but it still wasn't nothing fancy. He struggled defensively, we thought. His defense wasn't the best against Bledsoe when he would switch, and Bledsoe, he's a big, strong dude, especially at point guard, so he was using his strength to his advantage. And even in the third quarter, Thomas was just not doing well defensively. So that's pretty much all I can say for him. He did hit a couple shots. Obviously, he does bring some type of energy or some type of threat to the team when he's on because he can shoot very well when left open. So it's good having him. We just need him to fill out that defensive ability in order to make sure he's not a liability on the court. Adam, do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, defensively, when he switched on to Bledsoe, he was getting sized up a bit, and I felt like he needs to do a better job of actually closing down on the offensive player, because I felt like he was just there with a hand up, but he wasn't really in the face of the player. And Nick Nurse also brought up post-game, he also said that we need to do a better job of pressuring the ball. I feel that's a big part of Raptors offense, and I feel like the guards, especially Matt Thomas, I thought in that game, needed to do a better job of pressuring the ball, not just putting a hand up from like a couple feet away, actually getting into the player's grill and contesting the shot, right? So I think he needs to work a bit on that. And but yeah, he didn't really mix up his shooting. I mean, it was just a bunch of three balls. I mean, I thought he should have pump faked a bit more. Got to that mid-range area where he could play make. He has been having success with that, especially in the preseason. I thought he needed to do that more. But yeah, I think he just didn't have a great game overall, not too much impact, but we can see more from him. I really truly believe in Matt Thomas. He comes out with a lot of energy, and I hope we see more of him coming into the season.
So now on to Chris Boucher. I feel like similar performances we've been seeing from him, so there's somewhat consistency there. He's been having solid offensive performances night in, night out. His jumper looks clean. He was useful in the pick and pop game. He did hit one around the top of the key with Kyle, and we want to see more of that, especially because that was Serge Ibaka's bread and butter, and we had that ability to use that play to our advantage. So hopefully we can still have somewhat consistency there. I feel like that's a big part of this year, is that we lose some of our set pieces. Whenever we were struggling or whenever we were in the fourth quarter, we needed to get a for sure easy bucket. We went to that pick and pop with Serge or a pick and roll with Serge, and it was guaranteed some type of good offensive play, an open shot, an open midi, a foul at the basket. It was something. And now that we've lost that, we're struggling here to create the new set of plays that are going to work game in and game out or in late game scenarios. And I guess as the season goes on, we're going to see what happens late game, what we go to. Is it an ISO? Is it a pick and roll action, like that triple handoff we do? How are we going to get an open guy? And I feel like that's going to be interesting to see. But Boucher, he did hit that leaning midi to beat the shot clock, which was nice. He had a block and a steal in the first quarter. And what I noticed about his defense that we've been commenting on is he does very well in the paint, especially when there's a guard driving. He does a good job helping, contesting, getting a block, going from side to side with some type of quickness and verticality. He does that great. The thing that we always say is that when he's closing out the shooter, he tends to jump a lot. And when there's a dominant, strong big man, he kind of gets pushed around a little bit, or they get good positioning on rebounds. And maybe that's a bit of having a bit more veteran knowledge, been in the league longer, get more minutes than he ever has. So maybe that's where that comes into play. And hopefully he learns from that, because I know that he can see some of this stuff back in film and he'll see mistakes that he made. But he does have some great, I would say almost intangibles of instinct of when to jump, and help defense is good, and his offense comes natural and it's confident. So that's always a solid, and we just hope that he makes those adjustments on defense that we constantly point at.
Yeah, I feel like also Boucher still got the short end of the stick. I feel like Nurse I don't know, I think he believes in him. I just don't think he's been showing it by action. I mean, still again, 14, 15 minutes with Boucher?
Yeah.
And I mean, he had such a great opening half, obviously with the offensive spark. And I think he just needs to play more. He needs to get more reps. He needs to, even if Steven Adams was on the floor, I know it's a big mismatch, put him in against him. Let's see how he does. He needs reps. That's how he's going to get better with the interior defense.
Yeah. And
I felt Baines was dead in the second half, and I thought Boucher should have been playing more. I mean, he's a great offensive player. He can score. Yeah, he brings an energy. There's so many things that he brings, and I thought that Nurse didn't just play him. He just kept him on the bench, and he always gives him the short end of the stick, and I think that really needs to change. That's something that it's a no-no.
Yeah, the minutes are definitely a little lopsided. We played our starters for a large amount of minutes, and we didn't even come out with the win, which is obviously very disappointing. And near the end, we definitely could have just let off the gas, knew it was over, especially when we couldn't get anything to fall, and they could get everything to fall. We definitely could have just put on our bench there and let our team just get the starters to rest, shake it off, and get some more minutes for these bench players. And like I said, Boucher, you give him more minutes, give him more time, he'll understand better how different centers in the league work, understanding their tendencies. And the strength, sad as it is, it's hard to build strength in one summer. You can do a bit, maybe 10, 15 pounds if you're very lucky, but even that is very hard. So you have to be able to adjust he's got to understand, I got to play this little whole other season with my current frame. It's not going to change, anytime soon. So even with these strong guys, I have to be understanding what's my timing, when to jump, when to take the hits, and stuff like that. So moving on, I just got to quickly do DeAndre Bembry because it was not much to say on him either. He kind of played little minutes in the second. He had one really nice block after a sloppy turnover. So what we like to see there is that he hustled to make up for his mistake. But besides that, there's not much really to talk about in his game, and everyone else really kind of touched the floor for short minutes of time.
I just wanted to say for Bembry that Blake Murphy also put out a tweet that Bembry was working out after the game. And I think it's to show Nurse and just for his sake, getting more practice in, and I feel like that's a great way to show respect and to really show Nurse that he's really working hard. He really wants to get more minutes. He feels like he probably should be getting more minutes, and that's a great way to do it. Show the coach that you're ready to play and practicing very hard.
Yeah, we love to see it.
Now moving on, in the fourth quarter, we talked about the drought earlier. We did not have it in us to close this game out. We got outscored 25-20 again in the fourth quarter. There wasn't no urgency. There wasn't no urgency to win the game, and I felt like we saw that. I mean, Kyle struggled near the end with 2 extra turnovers. Pascal, Norman, Fred were still struggling to get their shots to fall. Matt and OG made a shot each, but the offense wasn't really flowing, and we couldn't stop their scores. And TD only played 2 minutes, and Malachi only played for 1. So, I mean, that fourth quarter wasn't the best. I feel like the game was still in the balance to win. Yeah. I just feel like we didn't have the intensity and we couldn't pull it out. Nothing was falling. There was no rhythm to the game, I feel like, in the Raptors offense. And New Orleans did a great job of hitting their shots and making good IQ plays. I was very surprised with New Orleans. Their passing abilities is very good, especially with Lonzo and Bledsoe. I thought they did a great job with that.
Yeah, sadly, we, like you said, couldn't do anything in the fourth quarter. Kind of collapsed. People were missing a lot of shots. We couldn't get an offense to flow, and I think they did a great job of doing everything. I guess quickly I'll just mention the player of the game was Pascal Siakam for us because he did have 3 good quarters. Overall, put up decent numbers all around. A close second, I guess, would have been Kyle because he had a good shooting night as well. But we did lose this one 113-99. It wasn't really close by the end, and we got to see better from our team. And you got to credit Pelicans where credit is due. Third quarter, fourth quarter, they turned up. A couple of big players for them. Zion, obviously his strength, athleticism, blocking shots. He got that volleyball spike on OG. 15-point double-double in the end. He kind of just showed off a little bit of his talents, and working well with his teammates. Bledsoe, much better shooting night than we thought he would have, than he usually does, especially, from 3. He made 4 of them, which is not common for him. I think he had like 18% from 3 or something in the playoffs last year, and he turned that right around, shot very well over defenders, very confidently, and ended with 18 points 6 times. Brandon Ingram, obviously we know he signed that extension. He's obviously their young talent, young star. He was 1 rebound away from a 24-point triple-double. He's very hard to guard. We know that. He's got Kevin Durant tendencies. He had his way with defenders, especially near that mid-range. He can pull up over guys. He can lean. He shoots right over people, and that's what his length and his height do for him. Obviously, because he's long, he can be good on the defensive end. He's also good at creating an offense, getting guys to play around him. He's played with Lonzo for quite a bit, so they have good chemistry together. Plus, now they have killer pieces like Redick and Zion. So now talking as well, he also had 3 steals, so that's where the defense came in. And for Lonzo, 16 points of his own, 2 blocks and a steal, 4 3-balls. His jumper looked a lot smoother than what we've seen in the past. He played well on both ends, and overall had a very solid game helping move the ball. And finally, JJ Redick is a problem as usual, 23 points coming off of 6 3-pointers, including an and one near the end where he got it off from the corner. He was a threat just as he always is, and I think Matt Thomas, someone like him, Matt Thomas can learn a lot from someone like JJ, his play style if he wants to be a straight up shooter, but hopefully, he wants to have more to his game than just that, but JJ is a good personal model after.
Yeah, I mean, the Pelicans had a great game. From all their stars showed up. Ingram, obviously, with the big night. Zion did his part, very efficient, strong, rebounding the ball. And Redick came off scoring big off the bench. So that was their night for the Pelicans, and they really came to play first night.
Yep, they had great pieces. All of their starters played very well, and they didn't need someone like Adams to exploit our big because they had a lot of good other players in that team. That's 0-1 in the books, and we're hoping we can have a much better season than what we saw tonight, because we don't want this to be the reality. And who knows here, if we can't do it against a team like New Orleans, who's still up and coming, how are we going to fare against the top dogs of the East, top dogs of the West, and how are we going to finish at the end of this season? Yeah, but anyways, that's pretty much it. We hope you all enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. You can also check us out on Instagram at Rapzville for NBA news, Raptors content. And if you want to listen to this podcast anywhere else, just audio version, you can check us out on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. And yeah, that's us signing out. Peace.